Imagine for a moment that you are standing in a crowded marketplace 5,000 years ago. The air is thick with the smell of spices, livestock, and sweat. You have spent weeks weaving a fine linen cloth, and your family is hungry. You find a man with a surplus of grain, but he does not want your cloth. He needs sandals. You spend the rest of the day searching for a shoemaker who needs linen, so that you can eventually get the grain you need to survive. This is the fundamental friction of human existence before the invention of money. It is a problem of timing and desire. We call it the double coincidence of wants. It is the reason why, for the vast majority of our history, our ancestors lived in small, tight-knit communities where everyone knew everyone else. In those groups, you didn't need money because you had something more powerful: memory. You knew that if you gave your neighbor a portion of your hunt today, they would help you fix your shelter tomorrow. This was a system of informal debt, a ledger kept not on paper, but in the human heart. But as our tribes grew into cities, and our cities into empires, memory began to fail us. You cannot trust a stranger in a city of 10,000 people the same way you trust your brother. We needed a way to store our labor, a way to transport our effort across time and space. We needed a universal language that everyone could understand, even if they didn't speak the same tongue or worship the same gods. We needed money. The story of money is not a story of coins or paper. It is a story of trust. It is perhaps the most successful collective hallucination in human history. We all agree to believe that a specific object has value, and because we all believe it, it becomes true. In the beginning, we chose objects that were naturally scarce or beautiful. In the Americas, it was cocoa beans. In parts of Africa and Asia, it was cowrie shells. These were the first physical manifestations of a social contract. But shells can break, and beans can rot. The search for something more permanent led us to the earth itself. Gold and silver changed everything. These metals were perfect for the job. They were difficult to find, easy to divide, and they did not decay. When the first coins were struck in the kingdom of Lydia, in what is now modern-day Turkey, around the year 600 before the Common Era, it was a revolutionary act of branding. By stamping a lion's head onto a piece of electrum, the king was not just certifying the weight of the metal. He was putting his reputation on the line. He was saying that if you hold this coin, you hold the power of the state. This allowed trade to explode. A merchant could sail from one end of the Mediterranean to the other, carrying a small pouch that represented an entire warehouse of goods. The transition to metal coins brought its own set of problems. As empires grew, the demand for currency outpaced the supply of gold. Kings and emperors began to realize they could cheat. They would melt down the coins and mix in cheaper metals like copper, a process known as debasement. They were effectively printing money before the printing press existed. This led to the first great cycles of inflation, where the money in a citizen's pocket lost its value while they slept. It was a betrayal of the social contract, a lesson that humanity would have to relearn century after century. The next great leap in the evolution of money happened not in a palace, but in the backrooms of goldsmiths in medieval Europe. Carrying large amounts of gold was dangerous. It made you a target for bandits and pirates. People began to leave their gold with local smiths who had the strongest vaults. In exchange, the smith would give them a receipt, a simple piece of paper promising to return the gold on demand. Soon, people realized they didn't need to go back for the gold at all. They could just trade the receipts. The paper was lighter, safer, and just as valuable because of the promise it represented. This was the birth of the banknote and the beginning of modern banking. The goldsmiths noticed something curious. Only a small fraction of people ever came back for their gold at the same time. This meant the smiths could issue more receipts than they had gold in the vault, lending out the excess and charging interest. This is what we now call fractional reserve banking. It is the engine of the modern economy, allowing for the creation of credit and the funding of massive industrial projects. But it is also a house of cards built entirely on the assumption that we won't all ask for our gold back on the same day. By the time the Industrial Revolution was in full swing, money had become almost entirely abstract. The gold standard, which tied the value of a nation's currency to a specific amount of physical gold, provided a sense of stability for a time. It was the anchor of the 19th century. But as the world became more interconnected and the scale of global trade reached trillions of dollars, the anchor became a chain. During the 20th century, under the pressure of world wars and economic depressions, the link between money and the earth was finally severed. In 1971, the United States officially ended the convertibility of the dollar into gold. We entered the era of fiat money. The word fiat is Latin for "let it be done." Our money today has no intrinsic value. It is not backed by gold or silver. It is backed only by the promise of the government that issued it and the collective belief of the people who use it. It is a pure expression of trust. When you look at the balance in your bank account, you are looking at a series of ones and zeros on a server. You are trusting that the bank, the government, and the electricity grid will all continue to function so that those numbers remain real. This brings us to the modern day, where the physical nature of money is disappearing entirely. We live in a world of high-frequency trading, where algorithms buy and sell assets in millionths of a second. We use plastic cards and mobile phones to move wealth across the globe instantly. We are returning in a strange way to the ancient system of the ledger. But instead of the ledger being kept in the memory of a village elder, it is kept in a global network of computers. The rise of digital currencies and blockchain technology is the latest chapter in this 5,000-year epic. It represents a desire to remove the middleman, to create a system of trust that doesn't rely on a king, a government, or a bank. It is an attempt to turn money back into a pure mathematical truth. Whether these new forms of currency will succeed or fail is almost beside the point. What matters is what they reveal about us. We are a species that cannot survive without cooperation, and we cannot cooperate without a way to measure our obligations to one another. Money is often blamed for the worst aspects of human nature. We speak of greed, corruption, and inequality. But money is also the tool that allowed us to build cathedrals, to cure diseases, and to reach the stars. It is the bridge that connects a coffee farmer in Ethiopia to a software engineer in San Francisco. It is a mirror that reflects our values, our fears, and our dreams. As we move further into the 21st century, the definition of money will continue to shift. We may see the rise of social credit, carbon credits, or entirely new forms of value that we cannot yet imagine. But the underlying plot of the story will remain the same. It will always be about the search for a way to make a promise that lasts. It will always be about the delicate, invisible thread of trust that holds our civilization together. When you hold a banknote in your hand or tap your phone at a terminal, you are participating in an ancient ritual. You are acknowledging that you owe something to the world and that the world owes something to you. You are trusting that the work you did yesterday will be recognized tomorrow. It is a fragile system, and it has collapsed many times before. But as long as we continue to believe in the story, the money will have power. The history of money is not the history of things. It is the history of us, learning how to trust one another in an increasingly complex world. It is the most powerful story we have ever told, and we are still writing the ending.